Guys, Bill Maher has been surprising me lately, weirdly. Like, don't get me wrong here. I think he's probably a historical Democrat. I mean, traditional Democrat before they were basically invaded by like those other people. All right. You get what I'm saying here? Don't get me wrong here, guys. The Republican Party also was invaded by a whole other group. So I don't know. Like, it's just this weird thing that's going on here and politically in the United States of America, right? But definitely, Bill Maher reminds me of like an old school Democrat, right? Like back before all the craziness came into the parties, guys. But either way, Bill Maher warns Dems drop this or keep losing elections. This is a suggestion via Discord. Let's jump into it.
Now on to this. President Trump is fighting for fairness in girls' sports and taking on Maine's Democratic governor who's defying his executive order on transgender athletes. Okay. Now, the White House says it's investigating the blue state after a transgender student won the high school state title for women's pole vault.
You don't say.
That student competed as a male in last year's event, but only came in 9th place. This all happened after Trump's order to ban biological men from participating in women's sports.
Guys, why don't I ever see the opposite? Let me know in the comments. Give me some theories, because I'm trying to understand something, okay? I see the guys, you know, that are going through this transition, let's say, trying, you know, approach this with some tact, right? You see the guys transitioning to girls and then going into the sports, right? But why don't I see large quantities of girls transition into guys and then competing against other men? Why don't I see that? Let me know in the comments why you think that is, guys. I seriously want to know this.
Now, the president called out Maine Governor Janet Mills during a meeting at the White House. Watch.
And she was like,
the
I'll
NCAA
see you in court.
Has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine. Is Maine here, the governor of Maine?
Well, down here.
Are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
We are the federal law.
Right.
Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor, because I don't think you'll be in elected politics. Every state has a responsibility to comply with Title IX. They have an obligation, a legal obligation.
Bro, he's cutthroat. He's cutthroat. You guys let the wolf in the sheep pen, guys.
And we'll be enforcing aggressively, and we're going to be protecting our citizens. We're going to protect.
All right, Kaylee, so we were just talking a little bit about this actually earlier. Talk to us, walk us through like a color commentator, what went on there about that interaction and what you think the end result is.
This is fascinating, and this is why people love President Trump. He just says it as it is. I mean, there's no questioning where his mind is at on any given issue. Apparently, Janet Mills was, her staff kind of taken aback by that. I don't know that they expected to be called out in such a colorful fashion, but you know where President Trump stands, and he happens to stand on the side of a 70-30 issue. We have polling in 2023, the beginning of that year, that 34% support biological men in women's sports. President Trump's executive order, 63% approval. That's according to Marquette. So Janet Hill has chosen to stand with the 30%, President Trump's with the 70%, and he feels very comfortable calling her out on television in public fashion because he knows he's on the right side of this.
Yeah, and Ainsley, when we talk about, as he's saying, I think he's citing facts, which is, sure, I will A, pull federal funding, and B, I look forward to beating you in court because at the end of the day, the law is frankly well on our side, as is case law. And I think about, for example, that Vermont, that poor girl, she was a volleyball player. She complained about a biological male in the locker room, and she was suspended because she was told you either write an apology for misgendering him or you're suspended. Well, her father was the soccer coach. He was suspended without pay for speaking up on her behalf. But the courts reinstated their pay and the suspensions because at the end of the day, the whole point is the law is on that side, let alone the morality of protecting women in sports.
How about the case in Virginia where the mom goes in the locker room with her little girl, which we've all done when our little girls are swimming, and there were a bunch of little girls in there, and there's a man in there who's naked, and he claims he's transgender, and he wants to be in there, and it turns out he was convicted of crimes for exposing himself or something like that.
Don't say it.
I don't remember exactly what he was convicted of. Do y'all remember?
Yeah.
But was he a
Wild. Oh, he's about to. Wildness, let's say, guys.
or something? I don't remember. Anyway, so that's a case that reminds me of what you were talking about in Vermont. If she wants to choose to die on this hill, let her. That's what Sean Hannity always says. We were talking about dying on the hill. It's a great term to describe what's happening here in the Democratic Party. Why would you ever, from a political standpoint, support something that only 30% of your constituents are supporting?
Because she's ideologue. That's it. She only cares about this one specific topic, and this topic has to win, and she's literally going to die on that hill. That's the purpose of that. So that's a great analogy.
Just is not common sense. That's not being smart. So she can say all of this. Trump can call her out. I love that he just calls her out in the middle of all the other governors, telling the other governors, don't do this kind of thing or I'll call you out too and embarrass you.
You know, I note as well that one of the coaches that was at the prior meet where that athlete played as a male prior, he actually refused to participate as a judge this year in protest. So to the point of the loudest voices in the room are the 30%, the vast majority of Americans and those in that industry right there, boots on ground, had a massive problem with this before that athlete won the championship.
I don't actually even believe the 30% number. I think that number is
lower.
actually lower. I've seen polls where
lower.
it is lower, and I think people get browbeaten into trying to act, be politically correct, et cetera. That number is lower. I've talked to Democrat strategists. One in particular I'm thinking of told me before the election, this is one of our absolute Achilles heels. This issue is killing us. That's the term that he used. Look, Donald Trump's on the right side of a number of things here, not only history, but as you said, the law, all right? He can withhold the funds. He can do that. Number two, the Title IX issue. The Biden administration interpreted Title IX as saying no gender discrimination in sports, and so you get to choose your gender. Trump's administration has turned that around to the far more logical and I think intended reading of that, which is that women can play in sports safely, and they are allowed to have access to women's sports among women. And I just want to close with, why would you, if being transgender is so tough, and it is, I get that, but as an adult, you've decided to transition, okay, that's your right. Why inflict yourselves on people who are weaker than you or not as capable as you in a sport? It's so performative. If it's such a small number of people, do yourselves a favor, do your fellow transgenders a favor, and don't take your 6'2" muscular body in to play basketball against a bunch of women who are 5'7" and weigh 100 pounds.
Maria, I wanted to ask.
That makes all the sense in the world. I mean, this is pure common sense in this context, but he's right. What you want. Well, I guess it's just gender dysphoria, right? But you may not know who you are. How do I word this without being canceled, guys? Hopefully you understand. I don't think they're aware of what they are. I think that's probably the way to make sense out of that. I'm not sure. Maybe they just have no self-awareness to the point where, he's right, where you're 6'2", why are you going and playing women's basketball against a bunch of 5'3s and 5'7s? What's going on with this? You just want to dunk on everybody? And it's crazy.
Ask you about the sort of synergy between media and the Democrat Party writ large as they talk about strategy and how this issue plays into it. For example, here's Bill Maher on why Dems are losing elections, including this issue. Watch.
Do I think in most of America they did that in schools? I don't. But I think in enough of them, in enough far left places, they did constantly have this idea in the minds of children that maybe you're not in the right body. That's why this debate goes on. And the fact that you think, or a lot of people on the left think that even if you just have this debate, it makes you a bigot, you just have to roll over. That was, you asked about the Biden administration.
That's
that was
the
their
problem
position.
with the left
if you even
right
question this, you're some sort of a bigot. You want to lose every election. Just keep coming down on the side of parents coming in second in a who gets to decide what goes on with my kid contest.
That's valid. Like, listen, you will never win if you keep choosing the minority vote, right, or thought. And I definitely do not believe that it's anywhere near 30%, guys. I don't believe it, guys. Sorry.
I think this is one of a number of cultural issues that President Trump very successfully ran on in this last election in making Democrats seem, and look, Democrats, we didn't always help ourselves. I'm not just giving Trump all the credit for it, but, making Democrats seem out of touch with the mainstream, like they had these pet minority sort of causes and we couldn't see what most people wanted. And I think that is a problem electorally. We have to balance that with the morality of some of these issues, and I think my party is struggling with that. It's worth noting that Janet Mills is not some liberal. She was a prosecutor. She's the governor of Maine, which is a very, very purple state, trending sort of libertarian. Donald Trump got a lot more votes in Maine this last time, so she's not some flame, she's not Gavin Newsom on the left. But Democrats have to figure out how to defend our values. And look, there are trans kids in this country today who are scared. And I care about that. But how do we do that in a way where we are speaking to all of America about what they feel and they care about? And was a tough needle to thread last year. And, elections are coming up soon. We'll see how we do. Yeah. And I think so many millions of Americans care equally about the millions of girls in biological sports who had their futures ripped away from them. I note, too, and to your point about the media, in CNN's coverage of this event, they quoted Stephen King, who said, "I'm so proud to be a Mainer. A Mainer." Yeah.
But
they didn't quote the Allen family. They didn't quote any family who has been negatively impacted by this.
Why would they? Why would they? Are you new to how media works? Right? I mean, listen, don't get me wrong here, guys. On both sides of the table here, they will literally find the diamond in the needle in the haystack story, okay, to pull up and be like, you see, this is why this can't happen. Kamala did it when it came down to like deleting babies, where she just basically pulled out all of the crazy instances of how like situations could have went differently if things were different, right? Now, don't get me wrong here. I don't think that when it comes to the sole purpose of someone's life, I'm not sure that should be at risk. But I do think on that issue, at least, if it comes down to, like, how about this? If it is something that is going to save the life of the person that is right here, right now, then I'm completely, moderately, fine with saving the person's life. That's just the reality of the case here. If it's medically, if it's a medical necessity, all right. But when it comes down to you just doing it for like birth control, that's a little silly. I'm pass. That doesn't make any sense to me. Sorry. And I sat down and talked to my wife about this topic for like hours upon hours. She was trying to convince me of understanding the medical aspect of it. There are a lot of things I didn't know because, again, I don't have the viscous innards, guys. I don't know. Apologies. But the concept, but the whole using it as some type of contraceptive is wild. Okay, you've had like 90 of them in your life. That's wild. Okay, we can do something different, type of thing. I'm exaggerating. Please don't come at me in the comments. That's an over exaggeration of the number. Obviously, 300 probably. Who knows? But the point is here. That's basically what Kamala Harris was doing. Right? And then the other side will pull someone, like, let's say, from some like crazy incident with like a migrant or something, where a person was lost, okay? And they will put these people, the mother most likely, because the mother will get more sympathy than the father, right? So they put the mother on stage, and it's the same type of thing. So just guys, understand both sides do the same exact thing, okay? They do the same exact thing, but differently in terms of like that exact instance. Okay, because they know it works. They know it pulls at the heartstrings of people who can't see through it, guys. Emotional thinkers, basically. But either way, guys, let me know in the comments what you guys think. I do think that if the Democrat Party ever wants to actually put up anyone that's going to be, moderately decent, they're going to have to come back to the middle, bro. And the same thing kind of with the right. If you want to actually make it so kind of like both sides have a better, because I don't like seeing like 70-30. That I then start to kind of feel a little weird about that, because it's like, bro, it would be great if president elections were only won by like 1%. If that's how we have a fair and just, right, society, I would say, where one side is not drastically to the other side of things. That would be great if we can kind of get back to that level of civility, at least politically, guys. Right? Where we can actually sit down and have conversations with family members that feel differently and think differently, guys. I absolutely lost a good bit of my family during this election because they were like, bro, how dare you not support Kamala Harris? I see your videos on YouTube. And I'm like, bro, I'm not supporting. There's no chance I'm supporting Kamala Harris. I can't. What are you talking about? Everything that she's saying will directly affect my household. Okay? And these are people who basically get tax refunds. I don't get tax refunds. I pay a wild amount of money in taxes yearly. It's crazy. So no, thank you. Okay, you're not adding any more money to my tax bill. Specifically, if the money itself is going to be wasted and all my streets still have potholes, type of things. Right? If I drive somewhere and I run into a pothole, I want less taxes taken out immediately. That should probably be the deal. So I have another channel, guys. It's MrLboyd Discusses, and on that channel there's a video kind of talking about how exactly I lost my family throughout the this election cycle. Guys, check that out, and you'll understand. I'll try to link it in like the pinned comment or something. I don't know. But all right, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly. The fact that you just made it to the end of the video says a whole lot, actually. We have a couple other channels. MrLboyd Music, MrLboyd Movie Reacts, along with MrLboyd Discusses, where I just generally speak about the things that specifically matter to me. But in the meantime, I'll catch you guys later.